Welcome everybody to another eye-opener. This is Market Wealth Daily's quick little video chats that we do with top traders. Great to have everybody here today. Great to have Blane Markham with us. Blane, I'm going to keep you on the hot seat here. You've been doing great for us. We're looking for more good stuff, and a lot going on in the markets. Was looking at it this morning and kind of more turbulence from trade talks and trying to figure out how that's going to go. We got all the earnings stuff going on, big stuff moving, influencing those markets. So really excited to see, what your take is on it and, to see what you're thinking.
Yep, absolutely. Well, first off, thanks for having me here today on this Wednesday, John. Appreciate you having me. And you're exactly right. This is a week that there are not a lot of major macro, data dumps kind of on the schedule. There wasn't a whole lot of, fresh economic data expected this week. It was just kind of a light week. It just kind of turned out that way. So it's definitely one of these weeks that's going to be really driven, because we're right in the real meat of earnings season. I think I heard the other day about 20% of the S&P 500 companies were reporting just this week. So pretty significant week of earnings for the market. Right. We're right in the middle of that. Things really ramp up tonight. A couple of once the market closes this afternoon, several of the really most important reports this week are coming out. We have Google, we have Tesla, we have IBM. These are, really crucial ones to the market right now, particularly because, AI is driving much of this rally, and all three of those are, of course, highly connected to that theme. So have that coming up, and then as you said, have a little bit of trade news moving across the wire today. That's obviously been kind of front and center for a lot of investors for some time now, arguably. And we got some good news this morning. It seemed that we have removed a little more uncertainty away from that. It's still, the market, I think, has accepted that, tariffs are not going back to zero, but as long as they don't go back to Liberation Day levels, as long as there's, can find some happy medium in there that is acceptable to the market, it's seemingly that things are going to be okay. Because, we keep getting, a deal here, a deal there. Maybe they haven't been the most significant deals with the most important trading partners yet, but you're starting to slowly and gradually remove some of that uncertainty. You're starting to see progress, and those levels are substantially lower than, the worst case scenario that was threatened back in early April. So, we got that positive news with Japan this morning. That's, of course, a tailwind to stocks, seeing some further progress there. And I think you're seeing that show up in the charts. So, those are the things that are moving markets this week. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up the chart here and start diving in, just to talk about, just kind of what I'm seeing today. Of course, you can see we've been in this pattern lately of just barely eking out new highs, whether it's a new all-time high on the closing or just intraday high. We've been doing that for several weeks now, but really haven't gained a whole lot of ground. If I've talked about this yesterday with Helene, but if you just took two horizontal lines and just drew them across the chart, one at 6250 and one at 6300, we've probably hit 6 or 7 new all-time highs within that stretch, but it's all happened within about a 50-point range, which, if you gain 50 points in a day on the S&P, of course, that's a solid move. That's a great day on the market. But, over about 3 weeks, kind of just stuck in this just grinding out, just by a couple points, setting a new high each and every day, you've kind of really lost a lot of the velocity and momentum factor to the upside. You're still, still gradually, slowly churning up these new highs, just grinding up. So certainly not complaining, just understanding that, the just crazy momentum that we saw really over the past 3 months, some of that's starting to slow, and understandably. We've been talking about this for a while, that, it's certainly due for a bit of a slowdown. And, of course, today, the markets did jump up to, if they closed where they're trading currently, we would be at, again, a new all-time closing high. Would be the second time or third time ever, I believe, the S&P's closed above 6,300. So, seeing a little bit more lift today, certainly on the back of that trade news. So perhaps that could be, a bit of a sign of, fresh momentum, breaking out, particularly if we get a few more trade deals, maybe, some catalyst like that could be perhaps the earnings this evening. Just
Mhm.
some catalyst to, force another breakout. But that's kind of what we're seeing in the market right now. But with that said, the underlying trend is still incredibly strong, making those series of higher highs and higher lows. But just in the short term, seeing some of that momentum factor start to fade a bit.
Yeah. To me, this is a little bit reminiscent of the dot-com bubble. And I was definitely involved in trading back then and, involved with a lot of the educators and the trading gurus and remember all the various interpretations. And to be honest with you, you didn't know who to believe. In hindsight, there were a couple guys that really nailed it, really got it right. But for the most part, it was everybody's opinion was all over the place. There's some kind of tangential things that I recall from that were remarkable. Trading became a day-to-day conversation. It hadn't been before. You didn't go to a little league game and have two guys talking about trading. At
Mhm.
that point, everybody was trading and everybody knew somebody that was making money and it was all great. Everything was sunshine and roses. Um, and the other thing that I kind of recall was the valuation of some of those dot coms were a bit illogical. And, you know, this could be me projecting onto the market. You cannot do that. The market will do what it wants to do. It's not going to do what you think it should do, what you want to do, or even what you're afraid of it doing. It's just going to do its thing. But for me, I look at this and I've caught myself now. Why do I feel like this thing is too high? What keeps driving that? And I look back and those valuations of dot coms were like ludicrous. The multiples that people were paying to buy those companies. And it was like, if you could just get a company set up and, you could sell it for 10 times, 20 times, 200 times what it was, revenue it was bringing in. I see a similar kind of uh, disconnection with some of the AI stuff. It is moving so fast. Everybody is crazy confident it is going to be a big part of the future. And it is starting to make it really hard to determine a tangible value. Yeah, it's going to be more important than it is today. How much more important? It's very hard for people to predict that. It is getting filled with a lot of optimism. Like, I don't know how much, but I know I want to be in it. It pulls all the buyers in. And then if you look back at the dot-com bubble, uh, it it did crash a little bit, in the beginning of, I believe it was 2001, right? The
Hmm.
big the big thing that really reset it, it started kind of coming down and falling and falling. We each saw this kind of decline, but then you saw 9/11 happen, and that really took the wind out of the sails. That just devastated everything, and it really changed the game. But then it brought the market you know, back to where it had been. Everybody wasn't talking about trading anymore. Some of the valuations got based more on, very calculated estimates and all that. So just an observation, a little bit windy, but an observation that I see going on in some kind of just familiar signs. When I start hearing people talk about frothy tops, I remember a guy, Martin Pring, a brilliant technical analyst, wrote a number of books, just really, really, really sharp guy. He called it in February of 2001. We were at a conference, at a trading conference, and I remember him saying, I really feel like we are at the frothy top. It was the first time I'd heard that term used.
Hmm.
And I think within days it shifted. And the bottom didn't fall out right away. It just started a pretty much more serious decline than we had seen. So anyway,
Sure.
that's just a little reminiscent there.
No, it's a great observation, and I think fair parallel to draw to today's markets. I mean, I don't necessarily think that the market as a whole, or some of the major players in the AI space, are in this super overextended crazy bubble that's going to pop any day. I don't really feel that way, but you definitely look around the market though. I mean, even today, just a great example. I mean, or really even just this week. You look around, people refer to, earnings as silly season, but that's not the only silly thing going on in the market right now. I mean, congratulations to anybody that owns some of these stocks, was a long-term bull when most people weren't. But you look at some of these penny stocks that are up, 10, 30, 50, 70% this week that are, it's kind of becoming overnight meme stocks. You're
Hmm.
seeing some of those kinds of signs that, we saw back, in 2021. If you remember, you think back to some of the GameStop and AMC madness that we saw then, when the term
Yep.
meme stock was kind of first coined. So, I think I saw right before I hopped on today that Krispy Kreme stock. I mean, donuts were up 30% today. It's like, so, seeing some of that stuff, yeah, that's a little concerning on the surface, but certainly that certainly Krispy Kreme or Open Door meme stocks are not really statistically significant to the market. So you have a little bit of that silly behavior going on out there. Again, congrats to anybody who was a long-term shareholder that was a bull, maybe didn't see what somebody else saw. Hey, they're benefiting from a giant short squeeze right now. So congratulations. But definitely seeing some kind of silly things out there with that type of thing. But I mean, you talk about the AI, revolution that's happening. I mean, you're going to hear about it tonight. You're going to hear, particularly Google, probably release CapEx numbers and about how many tens of billions of dollars they're spending each and every quarter on AI CapEx, AI related spending to keep up in this AI race. And I think that's the thing that really sets this apart, at least for now, from the early 2000s .com bust, is that a lot of the companies then, of course, hence the name of the bust, they just got these massive bloated valuations just because they were whatever.com. They
Hmm.
didn't really have any earnings to speak of, sometimes even no revenue to speak of. They were really just an idea that was publicly traded. You're not seeing that nowadays. Like most of these stocks that are really driving the AI revolution, they have very substantial revenue and earnings. Now, you could make the argument that perhaps, maybe the PE that they're trading at and valuation, maybe that's a little overextended, but at least they're real companies, right? So,
Hmm.
that's certainly something that sets it apart. Don't want to get too far out of my lane here because I'm not a fundamental analyst at heart. I'm more of a trend follower, but I do try and, at least keep up with the underlying fundamentals. And so just a comment on that. But to
Yeah.
pivot back to what I was talking to about today, trying to still look for, places in the market that you're starting to see some fresh momentum break out, different pockets of strength in the market. And John, that's kind of what led me to the trade that I was going to highlight today. It's this one right here. It's going to be Toast. And so, if you're unfamiliar with them, you've probably seen them anytime you go out to a cafe or a restaurant. What they do is, it could be the little thing that your server brings to the table for you to check out, the little handheld device to pay, leave a tip, or if you're checking out at a cafe, you swipe your card. It's point of sales service. That's what they're supplying, and all the back end software related to that. So that's kind of the core of their business, and they've been seeing some nice elevated volume recently, and you can see, of course, the stock has been consolidating. Had this period right here was just kind of stuck in neutral trading sideways for several months after this big pop right here, but you can start to see that there's some new lift starting under the stock right here. It's starting to break out yet again. We do have a nice underlying technical buy signal going on for the stock too. So we have our 21-day EMA. It's a red line. It is trading above our green line right there, which is our 63-day EMA. And of course, the stock is trading above both of those. So several nice technical buy signals according to the chart right there. And then you can also see that recent momentum starting to get that ball rolling. You see that in this MACD chart down here. So we can see our black line, that's the MACD line. It is now broken out. It was trading, pretty much just hand in hand, just sideways. That and the 9-day EMA were trading together, but you can see that MACD line is starting to get some lift in it, starting to trade above that 9-day EMA. That, of course, is the signal line. So since we have a MACD buy signal going on there, that is an additional nice confirmation in the charts, showing that this stock is starting to get that momentum rolling to the upside. So, really like to see that. Of course, mindful that we are, still in earnings season, and the stock is yet to report. So, probably could see some volatility in this one coming up. But I landed on this option right here. It's only a couple weeks out, but it's the August 8th. And I looked at the 42 strike call. So it's a little bit in the money. Of course, it's still carrying, a decent bit of time value because the stock hasn't reported earnings yet. It's coming up, I think, on August 5th, I think, if I remember correctly. But you can see that 42 call is currently at 598. So let's go ahead and update that here in our calculator here. And So you can see, some pretty decent upside on this one. You can see if Toast shares were to increase by 3.5%, not a huge gain there. But, given if the stock were to jump by 5%, you'd be sitting on near 25% gain. And then right here, if it were to move up 10%, this call option would be set up to produce near 64% gain. And I do want to add that, given that Toast is set to report on August 5th, I did the quick math just to see what the options market was implying for the move coming up. It was implying roughly by the date of this expiration here, it was implying roughly an 11 to 10, like 10 to 11% move in the share price of Toast. So,
Hmm.
that's why I wanted to highlight some of these bigger potential moves right here, because that's currently what the options market is pricing in, is roughly a 10 to 11% move come this option expiration. So that is the trade that I found for today, John.
Yeah, that one's really interesting. I'm a huge fan of that MACD crossover. I absolutely love that indicator. One of my favorites. You can use it bullish, you can use it bearish. You can't ever, ever, ever use it alone. You've got to confirm that signal, and using the counter channels and the stuff that you're looking at really, really helps a lot. And really another interesting, probably not a coincidence. One of the ones that I've been watching, I think I posted on the Telegram channel, was Paychecks, and Paychecks had a really similar bullish crossover. It was a little bit lower coming up, which I love it when they're low and they do that crossover. I feel like you got a lot of
Mhm.
upside on it. But the thing about Paychecks and Toast, with the changes in kind of the way businesses have to manage some of their calculating for taxes and all that, like no taxes on certain tips in certain situations, and you
Mhm.
start to get into Paychex is going to have to look at that for managing payrolls for small companies. Toast is going to have to, I'm sure they're involved in that when tips are generated through their software. So you get people who are saying, how am I, business owners, am I possibly going to keep track of all this? I don't have staff to do it. It creates demand for these companies. That's kind of the fundamental uh, guess at why we're seeing the technical play out on these charts, but it's plausible. And I love nothing more than when you have a great signal, you can confirm it with other signals, and then you have a plausible fundamental viewpoint that supports a trade as well. So I see that here, and that just really gives me a lot of optimism about this setup, Blaine.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's exactly the same things I saw. That's, kind of what I walked through, what you just explained there too. That's what, really gave me a lot of confidence in this one. So looked like a really strong setup. So definitely have to track it and see how it plays out. Of course, going into earnings reports, sometimes again, stocks can act a little squirrely. So we'll just have to see. But, I think that, seeing the momentum lift behind this one, it gave me enough confidence to think, that this, still is a, pretty high probability, certainly a, educated find here. There's definitely some
Yeah,
technical analysis behind it. Definitely some reasons on the chart saying this one could continue in this run. Then it very likely could be an early breakout we're seeing right here. So
absolutely. And one of the things I like about the kind of MACD crossovers is uh I can use those I cannot be glued to a chart all day long. I can't sit here and look at this. I can sit in my desk at my chair a lot, but I'm not looking at a chart all day long. I got to have a little bit of margin for wiggle room for me because I'm bound to make a mistake. And I know that you guys are working on a project right now. I got a glimpse of it the other day, and I got to tell you, I was super, super crazy impressed. I know that it's kind of the concept is to be able to place a trade heading into the weekend and by Monday have a pretty powerful result out of that trade. And it's something that you had done a huge amount of testing on. The testing was super positive, but it's been in action, if I understand correctly, generating real trades and real wins. So, I'm always amazed at you walking into these sessions and having so many winners in a row. But this looks like it's something that takes that to a whole nother level. Is that right?
yeah, exactly right, John. Yeah, we have an exciting event coming up starting this week. It's going to be on Friday and at 1 p.m. Eastern. Chuck and I are going to be sitting down hosting a live session. We're going to be talking about this strategy in particular. And you're exactly right. It's going to be targeting, kind of really short hit, placing a trade just for the weekend, ideas to get out. Once the weekend rolls around, get back to Monday, markets open. Getting out of the trade shortly thereafter. And so, that's kind of the underlying idea of the strategy, and it has been working out really, really well. It's been in action. We've been trading it, been putting out recommendations to some of our members. They've been following along with that strategy. Between the historical testing and the actual trading, the average win over the weekend has been coming out to somewhere, it was just a little bit above $1,600 per trade on the average winner over the weekend. So, that's been really great to see. It's been a bit of a newer strategy for us. It's one we haven't done for years and years and years. It's a bit of a newer one, but it's been working out fantastic. And folks, I actually just posted over in the chat. If you want to join Chuck and I for that session this Friday, we would love to have you. I think you'll be really excited about what we have to talk about and what we're going to share. So I actually posted a link just there in the chat. You can go ahead, get registered, claim your seat, make sure that you'll be there in attendance live with us so you don't miss this exciting thing we're going to be talking about. But go ahead and take a look at the link in the chat. Go ahead and click there. Go ahead and save your seat. There's, I don't think we're going to have just unlimited attendance for that event. So certainly would hate for anybody to miss out that wants to be there. So go ahead, take advantage of that. And we'll love to see you there on Friday and share a little bit more about this incredible strategy.
Yeah, I know that they do kind of, there's a cap on some of these webinar rooms, and it's important for everybody to get in there. For me personally, what's more important, why you need to sign up now, I forget about this stuff. And as soon as you sign up, you're going to get a reminder that'll tell you that you got this event that you were at one point excited enough to sign up for. So get that reminder. That's a huge part of it. The thing that really caught my attention about this is two sides of it. First off, it's who doesn't want to make money over the weekend while you're relaxing? That's just I'm in. I got to at least hear what you guys are talking about, if nothing else. But the second part was I find myself like highly overthinking stuff, and I'll get into a trade and I'll sit there and oh, is it going to turn against me? Is it going to do? The beauty of this is you put it in before the weekend. You can't do anything. You're prevented from doing anything over the weekend, right? So
Exactly.
the market's closed, and I look at that as that's kind of like a forced peace of mind. It's
Yeah.
like, look, and based on the results, you got a confidence that hey, it's really doing what it is designed to do. So for me, that's the kind of thing that I want to have. It's like force me to keep my hands out of it. Quit trying to mess with what's working. Don't fix what's not, don't broke what's fixed, fix what's not. Yeah, whatever.
We know what you
Just
mean.
be mindful of all that. But anyway, great event. I'm excited about it. I hope everybody takes advantage of it. I know we got some familiar faces in the room. If you guys haven't been on one of these sessions, definitely check it out. Hope everybody gets to take advantage of it. Well, appreciate the time. I know I kind of went off on a couple tangents here, and everybody's patient with it. But Blane, always great having you in here and taking a look at some of these setups. Enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thanks so much for having me, John. You know how much I really enjoy getting to sit down and do these sessions. I love, going and doing some of the legwork and the research, finding these opportunities out there. So I enjoy it as much as you do, and I certainly hope everybody watching at home, enjoys sitting down and watching me, find these opportunities out there, kind of see, what's going on in my mind, how I'm actually identifying these, how I'm using my tools on the charts, to assist me in doing this. And kind of seeing exactly how we do things, how we spot these opportunities. So again, thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be here, and I guess I'll see you back here on Monday. Does that sound right?
Actually, I am out on Monday. I'm going to
Oh, okay.
Chicago over the weekend. Sunday, I'm going with my wife. We're going to the White Sox Cubs. I'm sorry, the Cubs White Sox game,
There
and
you go.
we're going to see the game. And I'm going to be traveling back Monday. So I've been really excited about this. The only downside, I mean, I love watching my Cubs play. My favorite teams are the Chicago Cubs, anybody playing the White Sox, and then the Orioles, right? So this is definitely one of my favorite games to go to. Sorry, White Sox fans, but I'm merciless. I have just bad feelings about the White Sox. But I get to go to the game. The only downside is it's at Kaminsky Park. Well, what is it? Guaranteed Rate Field. Now I'm showing my age again. It's at Guaranteed Rate Field,
The
and
other
so
stadium.
that other stadium. But I mean, it's going to be in any way you slice it. Cubs fan, White Sox fan, baseball in the summer, crosstown classic, some passionate fans. I'm super stoked. I've really been looking forward to this. So I am going to miss everybody on Monday, but I'm cashing in a chip. If I have earned any chips from anybody, I'm cashing it in to go and check out this game.
No, you've earned it, John. And hey, it sounds like you're traveling this weekend. So hey, it sounds like you might want to sit down and attend the Weekend Winners presentation we have upcoming on Friday too. It sounds like you might be perfect to benefit from that. You're going to be traveling over the weekend, watching some baseball. Be great
You
to have one of
got
those
it.
trades kind of doing some of the work in the background for you while you're kicked back enjoying the game.
Yeah, something's got to pay the bill for my old style and Cracker Jack, right? So
Hey, when they're charging
yeah,
$15 for hot dogs, anything helps, right?
yeah, exactly. There you go. Awesome. Good stuff, everybody. Everyone have a great weekend. We'll be back definitely next Wednesday. So keep an eye out for the invites. Follow the Telegram channel. We're gonna put posts to the event so you guys can take advantage of that, the one that's coming up on Friday, and want to see everybody there. Have a great weekend, everyone. Blaine, thank you again.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Take care, everybody.